In case you missed it, Ezra Levant of Rebel News just revealed the degree to which the government of Canada is utterly disrespecting the Trump administration, even amidst these ongoing trade talks. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, in my home office as my child gets ready to play a baseball game, which I will go watch after this vlog. In case you missed it, and I need to put the emphasis on the beauty, the strategic genius of this video, this question that Ezra Levant asked the now Minister of Health of Canada. It's absolute genius, but I gotta set the context a little bit. Now, for those of you who don't know, there has been something of a trade war going on between Canada and the United States of America, although you don't really have a trade war among parties that are disproportionately unequal in terms of size, economics, population, etc. You don't really have a trade war with someone who is 10 times your size with an economy that is more than 10 times your economy. During the Canadian elections, Trump imposed tariffs on Canada because Canada's got something of a fentanyl super lab problem. It's got something of a problem in respect of terrorists crossing over the border from Canada into the US because Canada lets terrorists into Canada. Trump imposed tariffs during the election. Many people blamed that for the loss of Pierre Poilievre, although I think we have now lived through enough of after the election reality to understand exactly why Pierre Poilievre lost and continues to lose. But Trump imposed tariffs on Canada until such time as they could fix up the fentanyl distribution, fentanyl manufacturing problem in Canada, until such time as they could fix up the border issues by, not admitting terrorists into Canada.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world.
To which Canada, instead of saying, yes, Mr. President, we will fix up our borders and fix up our drug problem up in Canada, they say no, retaliatory tariffs against a country that is 10 times your size with an economy that is more than 10 times your economy. Heck, I think the economy of the state of California, which is roughly the same size population-wise as Canada, is something like 2.5 times the size of the economy of Canada. So set that aside, there are these ongoing discussions. How do we resolve this trade war going on between Canada and the US? At the same time, there's something else of a war going on in Canada. It's the war of the ostriches. I have been covering this story for months. I will not do the detailed summary that I did in a vlog I posted earlier this week. You all know there's a war going on for these ostriches up at a farm called Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, British Columbia. There has been a standoff there that is now entering its 5th week, I believe, in respect of a cull order that was issued sometime in December 2024, and they're still fighting it now because the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, still thinks you need to kill nearly 400 healthy ostriches 11 months after they survived an alleged H5N1 avian flu infection, because you gotta stamp out everything, even the survivors of the initial infection.
That doesn't make sense.
So that standoff has been going on for a while. The CFIA and its president, Mr. Paul McKinnon, are not fielding any questions. They're not providing any transparency. They are operating under the armed protection of the RCMG. Yes, not the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Royal Canadian Mounted Gestapo is what I'm calling them now. RCMG. You've earned that moniker. Under the armed protection of the RCMG, one ostrich named Spirit was tortured to death because the CFIA has custody of the birds and doesn't know what the hell they're doing with ostriches, and one of them died from dehydration after a week of suffering. A week, give or take. I might be wrong on the days, but the bird died in the custody of the CFIA because they don't know how to administer electrolytes to a dehydrated bird, and Spirit died after being tortured to death under the armed protection of the RCMG.
So I'm suggesting that she's not drinking. Look in her beak.
Yeah, she is dehydrated.
No, look in her beak.
I did this one too.
And see that?
Yeah.
That's a bunch of dirt in her friggin' beak. There's no water.
No.
If she was drinking, it wouldn't look like that.
So what do you suggest?
Yeah, she definitely needs tubing.
Yeah, probably that.
But heck, they're just following orders and enabling the CFIA to torture these animals, so they can't be blamed, right? So the CFIA is not answering any questions. Its president, Paul McKinnon, who is a public servant. The CFIA is a government body, a federal government body. Its president, Paul McKinnon, AWOL. You can't reach him if you tried, and I have tried to reach him. But yesterday I actually called up the offices of the CFIA. Their information is available online because it's a government body. And as you can see here, contact the CFIA by telephone, 1-800-442-2342, Canada and US, 1-613-773-2342, local or international. I called the 613 number because it's not that expensive to call from Florida, and I was actually surprised to have reached somebody, but not after an automated message said, if you're calling about the ostriches, you can go online and file a complaint on some website where no one's ever going to read your complaint.
This number does not handle questions or concerns regarding the ostrich farm in Edgewood, British Columbia. For the latest information, please visit inspection.canada.ca/HPAI-BC-ostrich. To leave your questions or comments, please visit canada.ca/contact-CFIA.
I actually spoke with someone who actually answered some questions. The answers were shocking, I'll get to that in a second. But I was playing it smooth, I was pretending to be ignorant, naive. Hey, what's going on here? How do we reach the President, Paul McKinnon? Because I've got some questions and I can't get the answers online, and nobody seems to be offering any transparency from the CFIA. I was told that the President, Paul McKinnon, doesn't know what's going on at Edgewood, British Columbia, and he's not answering any questions because he doesn't know what's going on. I kid you not, I was told that there's something of a tactical command group at Edgewood, British Columbia. They are the only ones who know what's going on at the farm, but they don't have a spokesperson, they don't have a media liaison, and they too are not answering questions. Nobody else at the CFIA knows what the hell is going on because they operate all over Canada, and none of them have a need to know, I guess, as to what's going on at Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, British Columbia, so they can't answer any questions. Well, Ezra Levant was at a press conference, a federal press conference, I think it was in Calgary, and he actually got before the Minister of Health. I think her name is Michelle. Yes, here it is. The Honorable Marjorie Michelle, Minister of Health. And you can get this information from the Prime Minister of Canada website. Now, interesting tidbit about Marjorie Michelle, which I got from the longer video that Ezra Levant posted on Rumble. The father of Marjorie Michelle happened to have been the Prime Minister of a country known as Haiti. Well, I guess it's still known as Haiti, but her father used to be the Prime Minister of Haiti. And now Marjorie Michelle, the former Prime Minister of Haiti's daughter, is in the Canadian government as the Minister of Health. So Ezra Levant gets in front of her to ask her a question. It's a thing of beauty, the way he structured his question to get the answer that he got. Spoiler, I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to have to wait to the end.
Thank you, Minister, for agreeing to accredit Rebel News. I very much appreciate your dedication to freedom of the press.
Now, Ezra is exponentially better at this than I am, which is why Ezra is a fantastic journalist with the career that he has had, because I would not be able to keep a poker face the way Ezra Levant keeps a poker face. I would also not be able to kiss the butts, even if it's only for show, of the people that I loathe so much. I don't think I can hide my disdain from the Canadian government. I know I can't. I cannot hide my disdain from the Canadian government. But Ezra can, and Ezra comes in there and leads his question with a compliment to the government of Canada. Thank you very much for accrediting us, because it shows your devotion to the freedom of the press. You know that he's being sarcastic somewhat. And even if he were being sarcastic, it is nonetheless a compliment. It is nonetheless buttering up the government that he wants an answer from. And they go on to give the answer that they give to his question. After he compliments them on supporting the freedom of the press, the ultimate irony is so freaking beautiful to this entire situation. Mwah! Gold, Ezra, gold.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
Ezra then goes on to ask a question in which he says, I know you guys can't answer this question because there's currently a court case pending before the courts, and he goes on to put out in the public domain that which he knows they cannot respond to, and that which he knows they do not want in the public domain, because what he said might be known to the people who are paying attention to this story, but certainly would not be known to the people who watch the CBC, and that relevant fact is that RFK Jr. offered to take those ostriches to do scientific research on them because he thinks there is something of scientific value in those birds.
I have a question about the ostrich farm. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to ask about the lawsuit because I don't want you to talk about anything that are before the courts. But there was a letter, and I noticed in the statement you talk about Canada-U.S. cooperation. I know that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your U.S. counterpart, has written saying he thinks that there's some medical research value in these ostriches because they had avian flu, but then have recovered and are now immune. In fact, he's offered to do the research and even to pay for it.
Dr. Oz of Trump's administration even offered to take those birds to a ranch in Florida, and the Canadian government said, no thank you, we prefer to kill these birds and give you a middle finger to the offer of the Trump administration. And then Ezra Levant goes on to suggest why it might be politically savvy not to give two big middle fingers to the Trump administration and maybe, as he says, throw them a bone, especially amid these ongoing trade talks, you know, like, yeah, let me do a little something for you, hoping that you'll do a little something for me other than beat me over the head with tariffs that are crippling our economy. And so Ezra Levant makes that very logical, very salient point while getting out in the public domain information that the Canadian government and its lapdog subsidized propagandist media are not putting out there for the people to know. Yes, RFK Jr. and the Trump administration has offered to take these birds. Why don't you take them up on the offer? Do you not think it might be good for negotiations as relates to the trade talks? And the answer he gets is absolutely beautiful. You couldn't have scripted it better. Congratulations, Marjorie Michelle. You played yourself.
It seems to me that we need allies around Trump's cabinet table. And if you could throw him a bone and say, sure, Secretary Kennedy, you can study these birds, it's sort of no skin off Canada's nose. And don't you think it would be helpful to have an ally in Trump's cabinet when we're doing our trade negotiations?
Prochaine question, merci.
That's my question. Don't you think it would be helpful to have a friend?
Next reporter, merci.
Oh, you're not going to answer, Minister?
Prochaine question, merci.
I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?
Next question, thank you.
Minister, did I miss an answer? I don't get it. Okay, I'll sit down. I guess it's question period, not answer period.
Merci beaucoup.
Now, if you find that arrogance and that smugness absolutely repulsive, make sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment in the comment section because it tends to feed the algorithm. But the absolute arrogance, smugness of these jackasses who think that they are better than Rebel News, that they don't have to answer these questions, that they can sit up there laughing at the journalists as they refuse to answer questions of public interest. They are servants of the people,
not vice versa.
So Marjorie Michelle, I guess, has learnt the proper lessons from her father, the former Prime Minister of Haiti, because how's that country doing right now? She gets up there and literally laughs in the face of a journalist who makes a great point, asks a relevant question, and asks them why they are not at least cooperating with the Trump administration to get better negotiations on the trade issue. And I retweeted this and I said, this has to get to the eyeballs of RFK Jr. This has to get to the eyeballs of President Donald John Trump, because the Canadian government is a joke. It would be a joke if it were funny. They are actually just a bunch of tyrants who want to rule with an iron fist, rule their own country even if they rule it into the ground, showing disrespect to the very administration that they're currently asking for favors from. My goodness, it's almost as smart as that pro-Ukrainian crowd going out there and threatening Pete Hegseth, demonize him on the basis of total lies that he's wearing a Russian flag for a tie and that he's a Russian asset, even though he literally has a handkerchief in his pocket of the American flag and the tie is literally red, white, and blue, literally sold by Tie Mart as a red, white, and blue tie. Yeah, if you want favors and you want more support for Ukraine, you really ought to go out there and demonize and threaten the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. That's a great strategy. Let's see how it works out. And likewise, you have the Canadian government that seems hell-bent on killing these ostriches for reasons that we can only imagine. And I think it has to do with Big Pharma and what they stand to lose if these ostriches live. You have a Canadian government giving the big middle finger to the Trump administration while begging them for more favorable tariffs. Great strategy. Let's see how it works out, Cotton. All right, that's it. I actually see my kid's team getting on the field, so I'm going to go watch him play. And hopefully today he gets a hit. But if you like what I do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life. And now you know you've vlogged. Peace out, peeps.